It has been a busy day and a busy after-hour session. Of course, all day we've been watching the sell-off that we had on Wall Street following a big sell-off yesterday. Coronavirus in focus, and the number of coronavirus cases is climbing around the globe. HHS says that the number of cases in the U.S. will likely increase as well. Joining us now is Dr. Gregory Poland. He's director of the Mayo Vaccine Research Group and a distinguished investigator of the Mayo Clinic. So, Doctor, given the updates that we have had, specifically from the CDC, saying that it is a matter of when, not if, there's a lot of concern out there now. Has your concern level gone up at all based on what you've heard today?
Yes, I would say all of us are more concerned. We are starting to see in Italy what we hoped we wouldn't see. We're starting to see in the Middle East what we hoped we wouldn't see. And this suggests that the virus is spreading geographically. The one bright spot is that we're not seeing the fatality rate in other parts of the world that we saw in China. Why that is still under speculation. But this is a very dynamic and a serious situation.
And Doctor, I guess in thinking about how many more cases one anticipates there to be, I mean, I don't know if there's a number you have in mind. I think investors right now certainly do not really know where this disease goes from here, what kind of restrictions may be put in place. But it does seem, at least from a market's perspective, the narrative changed here very drastically in just the last couple of days. Were you surprised by really the news flow that began on Saturday with the cases in Italy and has since continued over the last couple of days?
Yeah, not really, because once you start seeing movement out of just a few primary areas to actually having outbreaks in our geographic areas, you know that this is going to be something that, as I've said, now verges on a pandemic. Now, I know that word can be scary to people, but what we're seeing in the West is more like a flu-like illness, perhaps slightly worse, particularly for older people. But in the U.S. and Western Europe, the risk is right now influenza, not coronavirus.
And, I wanted to follow up on that word pandemic. You mentioned it. It is on the tip of everyone's tongue. You mentioned it is a scary word. Perhaps for our viewers who don't have a firm grasp on what the exact definition of a pandemic is, could you just outline how you clinically would look at that and say this either is or is not a pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's not a absolute definition that everybody would agree on, but the basics behind it is wide geographic distribution of a novel agent that easily infects humans and can be transmitted human to human. And to me, we are, as I say, bordering on meeting that definition.
What do you think the timeline here is for the when, not if, and then as part of that, the timeline that we're hearing for vaccines and treatments?
Yeah, very good question. I think that the timeline is really going to depend on what we see in the next week or two in Italy, Western Europe, the Pacific Rim. If those cases explode at the exponential rate that we saw in China, this is a now, not if. If, on the other hand, those are controlled, we see very mild illness, we don't see widespread geographic spread, then I think we will have dodged a bullet, so to speak. In terms of a vaccine, a lot of companies talking about it, and certainly they have what we would call preclinical candidates. But we, unless the president uses emergency use authorization, we go through the standard regulatory procedure, we are not going to have a vaccine this year.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gregory Poland, director of the Mayo Vaccine Research Group, a distinguished investigator of the Mayo Clinic. Appreciate your thoughts.
My pleasure.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.